I'm Quincy Vidrine with the LSU AgCenter, and today we're preparing a delicious dish of turnip and pork fricassee. Fricassee is a traditional Cajun dish, but it goes way back all the way to France. Typically, fricassee would have a white sauce, but most of the time in the Cajun South, we end up with a little bit of a light brown blonde roux type sauce. So that's what we're cooking today. A lot of people pronounce it fricassee, but like I said, in Louisiana, we say fricassee. It's French. So for this, what we're doing is we're actually combining two cooking methods. A saute, which is a dry heat or almost no liquid method, to a stew, which is a very wet method. And we're going to cook the meat down and simmer it for a long time to get that tenderness from the pork and also from the turnips that we're using. So the first step in this recipe, what you want to do is you want to cube up your pork loin, which is a good lean cut of meat. You cube it and you season it with some Cajun seasoning, toss it all around, and you're going to want to refrigerate this for at least 1 hour, which we've done. And we're going to put that kind of low. Even though we're going to saute that high heat method, we don't want our meat to get brown. That's also something that's specific to the fricassee method. Your meat is most of the time is more white than brown. Okay, so we're using pork, which is white meat or a lighter meat, and we've got 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil, and then we're going to add a little bit of butter. 2 tablespoons of butter, because this is going to eventually make our roux. So we've got our oil and butter bubbling a little bit there, and so we're going to add our pork. And you want to cut this in about 1 to 1.5 inch cubes. Keep them consistent so they cook evenly. Like I said, we want our meat to stay a good light color, so we're going to keep it moving around and browning evenly. This is definitely not a quick cooking method. It's something that takes a little while, so if you enjoy spending time in the kitchen and you like to have good conversation before your meal and during and after, that's a good one. Okay. So now we're going to remove our pork from the pot. It's nice and cooked. May not be cooked all the way through, but that's okay. We've got a long cooking period afterwards. Once we get all our holy trinity in there and we get it seasoned up really good. And if y'all can see down in the bottom of this pot here, the oil and butter have cooked down really well, and they're mixing really well with some of that pork stock there, pork broth. So we're going to let that heat up just a bit till it's roux worthy. Okay. And right now we're going to add in just a couple tablespoons of our flour to make that roux. A little bit more, since we have a little more moisture from our pork. Okay, and here's the fun part where you make sure you're stirring that roux constantly. It says to get it to a light brown. We're already there. That did not take long. So from here, this doesn't look like a lot of roux, but this is a bigger pot. But this is going to be just right for our turnip and pork fricassee. Keep in mind your turnips, kind of like potatoes, they've got that starchy content. They're going to add a little bit of thickening to your sauce there. So from here we're going to go and add in onions, bell pepper, and celery. A lot of times in our Louisiana cooking, our one-pot meals, we add in our garlic at the same time. But for this dish, we're going to hold off just a little bit. We're going to let this cook down And then we're going to add the garlic at the end, where it'll carry just a little bit more flavor and pungency for us. And I'm going to hit this with a little bit of chicken stock just to loosen up some of that roux that's kind of sticking to our pan down there. So if you look at that, that is coming together so pretty. And I'm going to lower my heat just a little. This is where we want it on a medium high. And you can season this like you want to at home, but I think you'll notice if you cook it just like this, the vegetables that we put in there, our Trinity, really does season this dish well. We have a little bit of that Cajun seasoning we marinated and coated our meat with earlier. That adds into it the flavor, of course, but we're really, after this, just going to add in a little bit of cayenne and salt for our seasonings. Okay, so we're going to go in with our salt, and that's just a half a teaspoon. You do not need an excess amount. And about a 1/4 teaspoon of the cayenne pepper, or red pepper, ground, of course. And as you can see, we're kind of getting almost back to that roux-like state. So now we're going to add in our garlic. And make sure we get all that garlic. It's one of my favorite parts. Okay. And as soon as that garlic hits that heat and a little bit of that liquid, you can really smell it. And it's going to translate really well with the pork and the turnips. All right, we're going to go in with 4 cups of chicken stock, or whatever's left over of your chicken stock if you need to deglaze at one point during your roux process. And we'll mix that in really well. And get those sides of the pot, scrape that down really good because some of your roux kind of gets stuck up there. And at this point, we're going to go ahead and put our turnips and add the pork back. This is about 3 pounds of turnips. For the recipe that's going to be provided, you're going to have about 1.5 pounds of turnips. That recipe will feed 4 people. Today we are doubling this recipe, so it's a little bit more. And there's your pork. Once this is all incorporated really well, we are going to cover this, and we've got a 55-minute cook time on it, on a medium-low heat. Okay, so we're going to make our rice that our fricassee will go over in our dish. We're using the new and very popular Parish rice today. Keep in mind that all Louisiana rice can be part of a healthy diet, so please support our Louisiana rice growers. But Parish rice, we're getting some feedback on it. It's a long grain rice that it tends to turn out a little bit more stickier than your traditional long grain white rice. So what we're going to do, we're going to use an old tip for fluffy rice, and we're going to add just a capful of some white vinegar. So with this, we're using the package directions for the Parish rice. So we've got 2 cups of rice in here and 1 cup of water. And we're using our little electric pressure cooker. You can use your regular rice cooker or cook it on the stove, however you like to cook it. I know in North Louisiana, a lot of people have microwave rice cookers. So however you do it, just follow those directions and your rice should be good to go. So we're going to put this on the rice setting, and it should build up the pressure and be good to go in about 10 minutes. So the last thing we have to add is our fresh chopped parsley. And this parsley is not just for garnish. I'm telling you, it's going to give it a really good earthy kind of flavor right at the end that you're really going to be able to taste. And we use the flat leaf parsley, or some people call it the Italian parsley, which is the more flavorful of the 2 types that are real common here. The curly leaf parsley doesn't have as strong of a flavor, so it's mostly good for garnishing and making things look pretty. So our fricassee is ready to taste. So we're gonna plate this up and with our parish rice and see how we did. We've got our Louisiana rice here. And I think you'll notice it's pretty fluffy. Maybe that little vinegar trick did it, because this does look different from the last time that I cooked this rice. All right, that turned out beautiful. Great color. This looks like a real traditional fricassee. It did come out light. Pork's gonna be nice and tender, I can tell just by looking at it. And you can really smell this parsley and garlic. Absolutely wonderful. If you want the recipe, go to our LSU AgCenter YouTube for this recipe on turnip and pork fricassee.